Welcome to On the Couch. And on this podcast, we will be discussing something very interesting. But first, let's open with the word of prayer. Dear Jesus, please guide our minds, guide our thoughts, and guide our mouths. Help us to say only the things you want us to say. Amen.
Amen.
So, the topic for this podcast is, what is a woman? This is part 2. So, I feel like we didn't answer the question on the last podcast. So, Tracy, back to you. What is a woman?
I can't remember what my answer was last time.
I can tell you.
What was my answer last time?
Someone who feels feminine.
What who feels feminine? I'm sure I didn't say that. Did I say that? Okay. A woman is someone who was born with certain reproductive organs.
Okay. I can accept
That would be the
answer.
baseline
Yeah.
description for
Yeah.
me.
Ashwin?
Yeah, a woman to me is, in the biblical sense, someone that seeks God's will, who lives in harmony with what God has asked, and who would like to continue to live out as specified by God.
Yeah. So, now that everybody knows, if you listen to the first podcast on what is a woman, what is a man of God, we gave you all the history over there of feminism and all those kind of things. And in this topic, we're discussing further of what you see on social media and what's happening. And as Christians, what are the stance we take on this matter? So I've did some more research, and I found some interesting things.
Of course you did.
I always find interesting things. And there was something that happened where a biological male took part in an event, a sports event or a swimming event that was meant for females. Right? So, even though this, I think he's transgender, and he drew with the first place. He tied with another female, and the times were identical because they drew, and when they got on the podium, he got the trophy. So my question today is,
It's a little bit unfair, don't you think?
Why does
Yeah.
he get the trophy?
Yeah, why does he get the trophy?
so this is the question that was posed. Why does he get the trophy? And she was met by
With criticism.
No, she was met by this guy who handed the trophy, didn't know what to say in the beginning. But he said she gets the trophy, because he needs to take photos for photo opportunity or whatever. So that was the case that happened. So now, from my view, if I look at this, I think this is a bit unfair.
Mm.
Because then the next question is there a difference between a man and a woman?
Are you asking physically?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do men have an advantage in sport?
Yes. Because they are physically stronger.
And that's also why they made the two distinctions
Yeah.
for women's sport and men's sport.
Yeah. Of course, they had an inquiry about this whole thing. And
Well, we're not saying that some women can't be as masculine or doesn't or can't do what a man can do, like in sport.
yeah.
There are some that can do it equally as well. Some women that can do it equally as well. But generally, looking at the human frame, physical body, that's why they classified the women's sport and men's sport.
You get female boxers. I mean, females can do everything that a man can do. Can I say that?
Exactly, yeah.
But I mean, obviously not at that scale.
Yeah, but not on the same level.
Not on the same level,
Not
yeah.
on the same.
Yeah, men and women are built differently. That's how, like you said, we
And
have
that's how
female
it should
sports
be.
and male sports. And they had an inquiry, and people were struggling to ask, which I think, in my mind, is a simple question.
They
Is
were,
there a
they were
difference
struggling
between-
to answer.
Yes, answer the question is there a difference between man and woman in terms of in this specific event? And they were struggling, or what is a woman? And people are struggling to answer this question. And in my mind, or what I think is, how has this become such a difficult question? You know?
It shouldn't be. I don't know why
So
we're complicating
then
things.
because they couldn't answer, I think she was a professor or something like that. It was on the stand of
Okay.
some certain university or whatever. And then they asked her, and she couldn't distinguish the difference between the two. And then they asked her, so why is there women's
herself.
sports? Yeah. No, like she didn't want to give the straight answers. So they asked her, okay, the guy in the panel asked her, so what's the next? The next question was, why is there women's sports then if men and women are not different
Okay.
or whatever? And then they were struggling to answer the question. And then he came with this. In 2017, if you look at the 100-meter sprint,
Okay.
the fastest woman, the woman's record was 10.71 seconds in 2017. This
Oh.
is the stat he brought to this
Okay.
inquiry. And
That's pretty fast.
that's for the woman, right?
Mm.
So get this. So if you think that women and men are not different in terms of men has the advantage in sports and play on a different level, 124 boys. So this is boys under the age of 18. Beat that time.
Under the age of 18,
Yeah, beat that time. 124.
like globally.
That is the stats they have.
Okay.
So beat that time of 10.71.
10.7. Mm.
Which proves that there
That's
is
just boys.
definitely
And of
a
course, men
difference.
in that year, the same year, 2,474 men beat that time.
Yeah. And if you look at the fastest man,
Yeah,
that also proves that
yeah, that it's a difference.
there's a difference because the woman then couldn't get to that time yet.
Yeah. So this is a very interesting time we're living in. Probably in the last 5 years or even 2 years, it's been, I think, the LGBTQ plus community. I hope I got all the letters in there.
Just include YZ and then you got it all.
Have been a growing community,
Yeah.
and they have some interesting views.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And why is that? What is this whole thing about changing what has been standing for thousands and thousands of years?
So yeah, so I like it when when we have a conversation and we can learn from each other. So this is what people are attempting to do, and they always met by the same answer. So let me ask you some of the questions that they've been asking people who are pro LGBTQ plus.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
it'll be questions like, what is gender? Or let me say this. Is gender and sex the same thing?
Some would argue, no, it's not the same thing.
Okay.
I suppose they would, but it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like they're questioning like
Yeah.
the basics of.
Yeah, look, that is something scientifically that we're not able to kind of elaborate on or answer, with something when those kinds of things involved. But when it comes to sex, it has always, from the beginning of the word of God, been male or female. Even God himself is never used in neutral or neuter or any neutral form.
So you're either or.
Yeah, he displays feminine attributes or male attributes according to the writers of the Bible.
Yeah. But you see, it's like, I wouldn't say it's upsetting to me personally. I find it interesting. It's a different way people think, but I don't understand why. Like, maybe it's because the way I
Well-
grew up and how things have been, like, since I can remember it, that gender and sex to me is the same thing.
Yeah.
And they believe gender is a spectrum. So, yeah, there's a lot of these things happening, and a lot of people are upset. There's a lot of these things come with a lot of these topics come with a lot of emotion from both sides. And then if you can go on YouTube and watch little clips of people questioning at these events or things like that, pastors preaching on the street and they have engagement with the LGBTQ community, and they met with a lot of hostility and anger, and instead of having a conversation about it, so
Yeah.
we can see, okay, this is my view, this is your view.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And that kind of a conversation is important to have.
Yeah. They met with people are very, or at least they're very defensive when it comes to.
So why do you think why are they so hostile
So
to an open conversation? Is it because they
So-
might not be able to answer
Ma-
certain
that is-
questions?
Maybe they also don't feel that they're accepted and
yes,
are able to live out their conviction. Now, the problem with that, especially in a church setting, is that it's conflicting with Christian standard and Bible. However, we as the church, we still accept people, but we don't promote the act, and we don't advocate for the act and the participation in the act, because then that's a blatant sin and that cannot be allowed. But if they feel that's their persuasion, we're not going to not allow you to worship in our church. You understand? That's and that's the kind of thing that we need to be respectful of, and that minority does not enforce themselves on the church as well.
So I found, I don't know if I was going down the wrong path, but I just thought in my mind, this is a good idea. So take everything away, take everything out of it. The LGBTQ plus Christianity, okay, and then I looked at a definition because I wanted to know, not a definition, but I did a search on why do people get defensive. And
And
that was interesting. So the results, or the ones that I found, went something like this. If you lack the skill to communicate in an assertive way, or you feel anxious socially, this might translate as defensive behavior.
wow, that is interesting.
But there's more.
Okay.
Listen to this. A reaction of guilt and shame.
Wow.
Yeah, you feel guilty about something, or someone else bringing someone else bringing up something, a related topic that you might respond to in a defensive manner.
Because it's a sensitive issue.
Yeah.
If I think about it, if I steal something and I get Lance to steal something as well, I'm going to feel better,
Yeah.
right?
Misery
Isn't it
likes
sort of the
company.
same
Is
thing?
that what you're saying?
Yes, I didn't want to say that, but
Yeah. But there's a lot of things that me personally don't agree with this movement and what they are saying. Like they are saying, this is like off the top of my head, which rings a bell, is that if you ask them what is a woman, it'd be like a woman is anyone who feels they are human. So specifically, me as a man, if I feel and I decide today I'm a woman, then I am a woman, and I can be a he, she, they, whatever pronoun I want you to call me as, and you must address me that way. And there's a lot of pushback by people saying, it infringes on my right of freedom of speech by you telling me what pronoun I need to use to address you.
Right. Because
There's
that's a
over
feeling. Are we going to live our
100.
lives on feelings?
It's over 100 pronouns.
Yeah.
I watched this debate yesterday, and they were basically saying this guy gave the scenario of robbing a bank. If a poor guy robs a bank,
Yeah.
should he go to jail or not? He needed the money.
No,
Yes, he
goes
still
to
goes
jail.
to jail
He goes
because
to
of the
jail.
action,
Yeah.
not the intention behind it.
Yeah.
So if I wake up tomorrow and decide I want to be a male, I'm still a female.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the principle. That
The
principle
principle.
still exists, whether you name whatever it is.
Exactly.
If it is, but according to that person's perspective, they might feel that they are whatever.
Correct.
But the principle is that they are still
Biologically a male.
biologically, well, according to what God has designed for us to be. So
That-
we need to have a standard of which you base your view on or your description on.
Yeah. And then,
And
then the other thing that also caught my attention is that there's an interview where this lady, or if that's what a pronoun is, says that a man can also mother.
like a seahorse.
No. Like a husband, a man can be a mother.
What do you mean by that?
Like, motherhood, being a mother to a child and being a father to a child. So she's saying, because we know a father is a male's role and a mother is a female's role. And there's reasons for that.
Okay.
Would you agree with me with that point?
Yes.
Okay. So there's reasons for that. So she's saying that's not necessarily have to be that way. She's saying that a man can mother and a female can father.
So you're talking about raising a child specifically,
Yeah.
and then you mean imparting principles as well as learning from behavior of that
So
that female.
So yeah,
which
so
is
this
now
is
a
what
male.
she's saying, that a male can be nurturing and all of that.
But those are some attributes rather than it is a state of being.
A male can be nurturing.
I'm not
I
saying he
don't
can't be, but can he mother? Can he be a
Yeah.
mother?
No.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
in
that-
my viewpoint, I had this conversation with somebody in this week. A lady, she is a mother, and she explained to me why a male and a female, a father and a mother's roles are different. Because a female comes from a more emotional, and the father is more logical in his thinking. Not saying that they not logical, not, but the way they are God designed us.
Yeah, the angle from which they come
Yes.
is normally logical
Yes.
rather than informed by emotion. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's things like this that catch my attention, and then there's the LGBTQ plus churches.
There is a church.
Yes, and they have the interesting beliefs. So one of their beliefs is that the Bible you can't take literally, right?
Okay.
And
So it's symbolic or
no,
it's
you
in-
as
in
even as a
allegories.
Christian, you can't. The Bible's like a manual that you don't need to use.
So it's a
I'm just
suggestion.
giving you some views
Yeah.
on
Okay.
what is happening or what we and creation in the Bible is a myth
Okay.
because we evolved.
Are these statements of them based on any specific thing?
I don't know. This is just
So what are they
they
actually
believe.
doing in the church?
What they believe.
Are they worshipping?
I've never been to these churches, so I can't tell you. But
That's
I
interesting.
would
Yeah,
take
it would
it
be
they
interesting
do
to go
worship
and see what they do.
have church services.
Yeah.
They are Christians. And these are things they believe in. And another thing that also caught my attention is that Adam and Eve was not real.
That opens a whole other debate up.
Which
because
makes sense.
we
If
go
you
down
don't believe in creation, how can you believe in Adam and Eve?
yeah,
Even though it's in the
exactly.
Bible.
If there was
this
no
is just,
Adam and
it's just,
Eve,
it's
then
just
you
as
can...
it's just like a little story or fairy tale in the
Yeah.
Bible.
Because
That somebody wrote.
if you denying the actual reality of Christ coming to die on the cross, so that there's no atonement for your sins, there's no justification for it, there's no then going to heaven. It
Yeah.
cancels out a lot of the Bible.
Is that where it's
They-
going?
Yeah, because essentially that's what you're calling.
Because if you're saying there was no Adam and Eve, then
there's no humanity, and then
Because that's
there
what,
is no male and female. Then we can just be
yeah.
whatever we feel like being.
But like when I do see these interviews, when the guy does go to these churches, he does a lot of different churches. When he finds out, he goes there
Yeah.
with a camera and actually interviews the pastor.
okay,
And it's very interesting what they do say. And some of them, they say that there is no heaven, there is no hell. Right? So you're not going to heaven when you die, you're not going to hell. What happens to one of us happens to all of us. So there's no separation between good and evil.
That is an interesting point of view. Because then, like you said, you don't need to be held accountable for anything.
anything,
Yeah.
yeah.
Pretty
So there's no
much.
responsibility for your actions or
Which is-
consequences for
which
what
is-
you.
Which is very interesting. This is like a sure. So in my mind, what is the end goal of this? What is the big plan? Which I can only speculate because I don't know, because I
Yeah,
haven't found the answer.
Well,
And-
if you look at back in who started this movement, it is someone who tried to break Christianity and Judo-Christianity, that whole idea. So exposing people from a young age, and these are guys that have done research. Some of them, even with people not necessarily from the communities, but from people in prison. So people that are mentally not 100%.
And I think the whole point of that would be if people just follow their own thing, there's no consequences, less people will be saved at the end of the day.
So you're saying
Would
is
that not be the end?
So this all started with someone experimenting or doing research with prisoners.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I would say we're welcome to go in and look at the research,
Yeah.
but it stems from that, and it's more in a sexual line.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Freudian theory, it also hovers towards that, but more in the male-female role.
Yeah.
But when this guy did it, he did it with the whole idea, even with children.
Yeah.
So because children cannot be, because the current population cannot, you can't change them, but you can with children inform them about.
So you get them when they're young.
Yeah, and so that's where it now stems on, and then now you expose them to all the variations or make them believe in that.
Yeah.
And then that was the thinking of then the younger generation, the next generation that follows.
Yeah.
Ultimately, eradicating God from the picture, because now people tend to ask them now, how can this God be a true God then? Because if there's only male and female, then what about me?
Yeah.
Because now they don't know how to identify with this God
So
in their mind.
So I watched a little interview with this transgender swimmer, and it was said in the interview that he is happier now, because before he had suicidal thoughts and he was depressed and all of these things. Now that he transitioned, it's happiness. But he doesn't seem happy. If you watch the interview, he doesn't seem happy. So my question is, after you go through that whole process, are you truly happy?
Mhm.
Do you truly know that this is for you? Do you truly know that this is what you want?
You see, like there's something that I thought about. Like, if this was the case, then you'd see a lot more successful relationships. You will see relationships that are actually prosperous in that sense, if that was really God's intention for humanity, because then those are perfect examples of what relationship should be like. But when we look at those kind of relationships, we don't. And this is something is concerning, because ideally, if something is inherent and God has designed it like that, it can't be altered or changed. Yes, there are variations because of sin, and it's outworking on the human body. But ultimately, are they examples of this happiness?
That's very interesting. So now, another question what I've seen with an article of some of the pronouns used by the community, which is they and them. And then in this article, they were saying they and them is also used to describe demons in the Bible. So my question is this true? In the Bible, do they use the words they and them to describe demons?
Yeah, look, the context gives help to that.
Yeah.
We can't just say wherever they say they and them, that's referring to demons, just because on one specific place they use that word related to demons. They and them can be related in different contexts, in different places, in different atmospheres of its usage. So now to take one, and which is bad theology, if we take just one phrase and apply it then across the board to whenever they say they and them. And that is problematic, because now we're creating our own idea of Christianity as well as a biblical view. And that's been the danger many times, where it's concerned with any verse, in fact.
Yeah, because then we start putting our own spin on things.
Yeah, it's basically when you come with your preconceived idea to the Bible and you don't allow the Bible to speak to you.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Good night and God bless.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.